Your reality is obeying you, and perhaps you haven't noticed it yet. Everything that seems delayed in your life is actually responding to the signal you emit when nobody is watching. Manifesting isn't about waiting for it to happen. It's about deciding it has already happened and sustaining that state as if it were law, because it is. Right now, you won't hear empty promises or cliche phrases about the universe. Here, creation is yours. Let's get straight to the point. How living as if it's already real changes the field around you and makes the invisible materialize without effort. This isn't cheap positivity, this is pure power. But before we continue, I want to ask you something important. If this message is resonating with you, if you feel there's something here your soul needs to hear, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Don't do it just for me, do it for yourself. Because this type of content gets lost easily in the sea of YouTube distractions. And if you don't add us, you might lose sight of us. This isn't just another entertainment channel, it's a space for real transformation. Every video is designed to awaken your true creative power. So join this community of conscious creators, share this video with someone who needs to remember their own power, and if you're already ready to stop wishing and start being like now. That tells me you're aligned with this message. You don't need to ask, you don't need to run, you just need to assume. The consciousness you inhabit is the brush that draws your life, and when you change your identity, the whole world bows. Get ready, what you seek is about to find you. Most people live as if life is on its way, as if what they desire is stuck in a future time. That's the mind's cruelest trick, making you believe there's a real gap between now and your fulfilled desire. But what you call time is just a reflection of your state of consciousness. When you project yourself to tomorrow, you're affirming that you're not yet. Time then stretches indefinitely, not because the world is slow, but because your identity is delayed. Waiting is a prison built with subtle thoughts of separation. The mind loves to procrastinate. When I have the money, when I'm ready, when this changes, then I'll be happy. But that logic never ends. What you project as future becomes eternalized in the future. You're not getting closer to manifestation, you're keeping it distant with every thought that reinforces absence. The key is to remove the condition. What you feel now is all that exists. Time only dissolves when you dissolve the idea that you need more of it. Every sensation of lack comes from the idea that it hasn't arrived yet, but the truth is that manifestation never arrives. It emerges when you collapse time with consciousness. Living as if you already have it isn't pretense, it's the only way to create. In ancient Jewish wisdom, there's a profound principle engraved in Kabbalah. We are co-creators of our reality. When God created man, he said, "Let us make man in our image and our likeness." Kabbalistic sages explain that God was conversing with Adam's soul, saying, "Let us both create man." God creates the setting, gives you the body, but it's up to you to create. And more than that, he gives you all the power of a creator. In Hebrew, the terms likeness and image don't refer to the physical aspect, but to the elevated spiritual aspect. Understand that we are co-creators of our reality. The form we will be and who we will become is in our hands. This is the first Jewish secret of abundance. You're not a beggar pleading with the universe. You're a creator shaping reality from the invisible field. Seeking is a subtle trap that looks like movement but is stagnation in disguise. When you seek something, you're declaring to reality, "This is outside of me." And the universe responds, "Perfect. Keep seeking." Consciousness doesn't deliver what you desire, it faithfully reflects who you're being. The seeker never finds because their identity is trapped in absence. The secret is to reverse the role. You no longer seek, you assume. Assuming isn't an act of effort, it's a silent state of decision. It's when you simply stop asking and start living as if it were inevitable. The world reacts like a shadow. It has no choice of its own. Doubt only exists when identity is fragmented. But when you assume with conviction, the world enters creative collapse to meet the new image you sustain. If you say, "I want to be rich," you're creating an abyss. But if you say, "I am one who has," you collapse that abyss. Your job isn't to convince anyone. Your job is to convince yourself, and that only happens with feeling installed in the body. As long as you're acting like someone who doesn't have it yet, your world will reflect exactly that. Florence Scovel. Shin taught that your words are your magic wand, but I tell you something deeper. Your feelings are your force field. Words can open paths, but feelings are what build bridges. Manifestation isn't a consequence of seeking, but of congruence. You think, but what creates is what you feel. It's in the body where the miracle is drawn, not in words or loose desires. The body is the language that reality understands. If you want wealth, feel the comfort of the house already furnished, the bed made, the car that already takes you where you want. If you want love, feel the touch of the hand, the breathing on the pillow, the shared laughter. This isn't fantasy, it's conscious creation. Most people live dissociated from their own body. They repeat affirmations while carrying tension in their shoulders, fear in their stomach, and insecurity in their legs. The body doesn't lie. While your body language says, "I don't have it yet," the world will agree. The first step of creation is to align the body with desire. Breathe like someone who has already won, walk like someone who has already arrived, rest like someone who already is. It's not about theatricalizing, it's about embodying the state. When you feel as if you already have it, the mind begins to obey. Real sensations are stronger than thoughts. A mental image without emotion is just a silent movie, it moves nothing. But when you add feeling, the brain interprets it as real experience. And the internal experience is the mold of external manifestation. You can repeat 1,000 affirmations, visualize for hours, or meditate every day. But if the feeling doesn't accompany it, nothing changes. The subconscious doesn't respond to logic or words, it responds to what feels like truth. Emotion is the language of the invisible. When you try to manifest without emotion, it's like trying to bake a cake without fire. You have the ingredients, but you lack what activates it. Thought can initiate the process, but it's feeling that solidifies the new state. The body needs to believe, and that only happens when the feeling is deep, stable, and consistent. If you affirm, "I am prosperous," but feel anxiety when looking at your bank account, the dominant vibration continues to be scarcity. The subconscious doesn't know what's real or imagined. It only records what's felt with intensity. This is both a blessing and a trap, because if you feel fear all the time, even though you think positively, fear is what will be imprinted on reality's screen. It's not about thinking right, it's about feeling right. And this is where the teachings of Jesus become revolutionary. In Mark chapter 11, verse 24, Jesus said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." This isn't just a religious promise, it's a principle of creation. Jesus wasn't talking about asking and waiting. He was talking about believing before seeing, about acting with the certainty that the request has already been answered. It's exactly the same core concept of conscious manifestation, aligning mind, emotion, and belief with what you desire, as if it were already reality. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 confirms, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." It's not blind faith, it's active faith. It's knowing without seeing, trusting without touching, assuming without depending. Romans chapter 4, verse 17 reminds us that God calls into existence the things that do not exist. And Matthew chapter 21, verse 22 reinforces, "In all things, whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive." Jesus wasn't just talking about asking. He was talking about believing with the heart, about already placing yourself in the state of one who has, not one who hopes to have. It's this type of faith that transforms prayer into manifestation. The ego's most subtle trap is waiting for the world to change to then believe. But that's the opposite of conscious creation. If you need proof to feel that you are, then you're telling the field, "I'm not yet," and the answer will come with more absence. Visible reality is always the delayed reflection of the invisible. Doubting because it hasn't appeared yet is like screaming at the mirror for not smiling first. The field obeys the most consistent command. When you doubt, what you're affirming is that desire is still distant, and that becomes law. Doubt is like pulling the seed from the soil every day to see if it has sprouted yet. The plant will never have time to grow. Manifesting isn't a speed competition. It's a dance with the invisible, guided by silent trust. You may feel you're doing everything right, but if deep in your soul there's still that little bit of "but will it," then reality will continue obeying your true state of being. The field reads what you sustain in silence, not what you say out loud. Doubting is human, but remaining in this state is divine. You don't need to fight doubt, you just need to return to center. Each time doubt arises, see it as an invitation to return to the state of fulfilled desire. Not as a failure, but as an opportunity for strengthening. Jewish wisdom teaches that even doubt has a purpose, to test the solidity of your faith. The Hebrew patriarchs and prophets weren't people without doubts. They were people who chose faith above doubts. In the Talmud, there's a story about Rabbi Akiva, who began studying Torah at 40 years old, not knowing how to read or write. Everyone doubted him, including himself. But he saw water dripping on a stone and realized that over time, the water had pierced the rock. If water so gentle can pierce stone, then the persistence of study could shape his mind. He didn't wait to feel intelligent to begin. He assumed he was capable and acted from that identity. Rabbi Akiva became one of Israel's greatest sages, not because he had no fear, but because he chose to live as if he were already who he wanted to be. Close your eyes for a moment and release the weight of the day. Breathe deeply, like someone who's in no hurry. Let your body rest, and imagine yourself waking up exactly in the life you desire. Feel the environment around you, the smells, the sounds, the textures. Touch the objects as if they were real. Walk through the space like someone who belongs there. You're not visiting this place, you live in it. Now place in your body the feeling of someone who has already achieved. Perhaps it's tranquility, gratitude, lightness, or confidence. Allow yourself to sustain that feeling for a few more seconds, without effort, like someone savoring a long-awaited moment. You don't need to do anything, just feel that you've already arrived. Your body is the temple of the new reality. The world will respond to that. There's no manifestation without identity transformation. You don't receive what you want, you receive who you are. Therefore, the real work is to become the version that already lives the desired reality. This begins with small choices. How you walk, how you speak, how you treat yourself when you're alone. Every gesture is a silent affirmation of who you've assumed to be. The new identity isn't a mask, it's a recognition. It's when you say, I no longer need to fight, I already am. The struggle ceases, effort dissolves, and you begin to act with naturalness. Confidence becomes something that doesn't need to be explained. You simply know. In Hebrew tradition, there exists a concept called Ani Maamin, which means I believe. It's not a passive belief, but an identity declaration. When a Jew says Ani Maamin, they're saying, I am someone who believes. Identity comes before experience. During the Holocaust, Jews walked to the gas chambers singing Ani Maamin. Not because they were denying reality, but because they chose an identity superior to circumstance. They didn't allow external horror to define who they were internally. This is pure spiritual power. You may not be facing the same level of adversity, but the principle is the same. Your internal identity creates your external reality. Urgency is manifestation's greatest enemy. Whenever you feel desperate for a result, you're confirming that you don't have it yet, and that creates resistance. The energy of urgency tells the field, I'm in lack, I need this to change now. And the field responds, yes, you're in lack. Releasing control isn't surrendering, it's trusting. It's understanding that the timing of manifestation isn't the same as anxiety's timing. Everything that's true manifests in perfect time, when you're ready to sustain it. When you release, you open space. The miracle doesn't enter where there's tightness. Life isn't testing you, it's only reflecting what you sustain inside you. When you understand that the world is the mirror of your consciousness, everything changes. You stop reacting and start choosing. The game is no longer about arranging the scenery and becomes about changing the lens. In Kabbalah, there exists the concept of Tzimtzum, which means divine contraction. God contracted his infinite light to create space for the world to exist. Without this contraction, there would be no space for creation. The same happens with you. When you release obsessive control, when you contract your desperate need to manipulate every detail, you create space for abundance to flow naturally. Sacred contraction isn't giving up, it's wisdom. It's understanding that holding on too tightly suffocates. Allowing things to be is the greatest demonstration of faith. Joy isn't the prize, it's the password. Most people live waiting to be happy when they achieve. But those who manifest understand that it's by being happy that you achieve. True joy doesn't come from what happens, but from what you choose to feel before it happens. It's an energetic decision. You don't need external permission to feel good now. Joy doesn't depend on proof, it is the proof. A state of gratitude and celebration activates invisible doors. Manifestation loves lightness, and lightness comes from trust. When you live with pleasure in the now, even without the fulfilled desire, you show the universe that you're already complete, and the universe completes you with more. Jews have a practice called simcha, sacred joy. It's not superficial happiness, it's deep joy that comes from knowing who you are. Even in difficult times, Jewish sages taught, serve the Creator with joy. There's a Hasidic story about the Rebbe of Kotsk who asked his disciples, where is God? The students were confused. After all, God is everywhere. The Rebbe responded, God is where you let him enter. Abundance is the same thing. It's not distant, it's where you allow it to enter. And it only enters through joy, gratitude, and active faith. In Brazil, we have a unique capacity to find joy even in difficulties. Our culture has taught us to dance in the storm, to laugh when everything seems lost. This isn't naivety, it's ancestral wisdom. It's understanding that life responds to our dominant vibration. If you choose joy as your base state, independent of circumstances, you're telling the universe, I already have everything I need. And the universe conspires to validate that truth. Think about Brazilian parties, Sunday barbecues, samba circles. Often the people who have the least materially are those who celebrate the most. They've intuitively understood the secret. Celebration attracts more to celebrate. Mental scarcity creates material scarcity, but emotional abundance creates physical abundance. You're not pretending to have what you don't have. You're celebrating what you already are, a complete, whole being, capable of creating your reality. There's a powerful verse in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7, which says, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. It doesn't say as he thinks, it says as he imagines in his soul. The soul is the place where thought and emotion meet. It's where identity is forged. If in your soul you see yourself prosperous, you will be prosperous. If in your soul you see yourself loved, you will be loved. But if in your soul you're still waiting, you'll continue waiting. Most people live with an internal division. The mind says one thing, the heart feels another, the body acts in a third way. There's no coherence, no alignment, and without alignment, there's no powerful manifestation. The Jewish secret of abundance is total unification. In Hebrew, the most sacred prayer is the Shema, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, The Lord our God, the Lord is one. This unity isn't just about God, it's about you. When you become one, when thought, emotion, and action are aligned in the same direction, you become an unstoppable force. Reality has no choice but to obey. You're no longer divided between desiring and doubting. You simply are, and being always manifests. Kabbalists teach that each person has a divine spark within them. This spark is the source of all creative power. It doesn't need to be conquered, it's already there. It just needs to be recognized and activated. When you live as if you already have everything, you're activating this spark. You're saying, I recognize who I am. I am a child of the Creator made in His image. And if He creates, I also create. There's no false humility here. There's absolute truth. You were made to create, to manifest, to bring the invisible to the visible. But this only happens when you assume your divine nature. Not with arrogance, but with reverence. With the awareness that the power you carry isn't yours, but flows through you. You're the channel, but the channel needs to be opened. And it only opens with faith, with gratitude, and with the firm decision to live as one who already is. The Jewish people have gone through countless persecutions throughout history. They were enslaved in Egypt, exiled from the Holy Land, scattered throughout the world, persecuted in the Inquisition, massacred in the Holocaust. And yet, they've become one of the most prosperous and influential peoples on the planet. Not by chance, but by principles. They understood that prosperity doesn't depend on external circumstances. It depends on internal identity. A Jew can lose everything materially, but never loses their identity. They know who they are. They know they're part of a chosen people, not by privilege, but by responsibility. The responsibility to be light for the nations. And when you see yourself as light, you radiate. And what radiates attracts. Not by magic, but by spiritual law. Light attracts eyes, opportunities, resources. But light only shines when you believe you are light. You're not here to wait, you're here to create. There's nothing more to seek out there. Everything is already inside. Desire is just the map. The destination is your state. And when the state is of joy, life recognizes you as the creator. Every morning you wake up, you have a choice. You can wake up as a victim of circumstances or as the architect of your day. You can look at what's missing or celebrate what already exists. You can complain about the path or be grateful for the journey. These choices seem small, but they're monumental because each choice reinforces an identity. An identity is the mold of your reality. If you choose gratitude, you're saying, I have. If you choose joy, you're saying, I am blessed. If you choose trust, you're saying, everything is unfolding perfectly. And the universe, which is just a faithful mirror, responds, yes, you're right. But if you choose complaint, you're saying, I don't have enough. If you choose fear, you're saying, the world is dangerous. If you choose doubt, you're saying, this won't work. And the universe, always faithful, responds, yes, you're right. You see how it works? There's no moral judgment here. There's only cause and effect, pure spiritual law. King Solomon, considered the wisest and richest man who ever lived, wrote in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything. A time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to cry and a time to dance. Most people understand this as things happen when they have to happen. But the deeper meaning is, you choose the time through your state. When you decide that now is the time to harvest, you harvest. When you decide that now is the time to dance, you dance. Time isn't linear, it's emotional. How many times have you heard someone say, when I was 20, days were long, now they fly by? Physical time hasn't changed, but perception has. This proves that time is subjective, and if it's subjective, it can be molded. You can collapse years of waiting in an instant of decision. You just need to choose to live as if it already were. I'll tell you something that will change your perspective. The moment you formed the desire, the seed was planted, not in the future now. Manifestation has already begun. What you call waiting is just the time it takes you to align your consciousness with what has already been created in the invisible. The faster you assume the identity of one who already has, the faster the invisible materializes. Not because the universe is slow, but because you were misaligned. Imagine you planted a mango seed. You don't keep digging every day to see if it has germinated. You trust the process. You water, care, and wait with active patience. You don't doubt that the mango will sprout, you know? That's the type of faith Jesus spoke about. It's not vague hope, it's deep certainty. And when you have certainty, time bends. Now, apply this to your life. You planted the seed of your desire the moment you formulated it. Now, your job isn't to pull up the seed to check. Your job is to water with aligned feelings, protect with unshakable faith, and live as if the harvest were already guaranteed. Because it is. The only variable is, how long will it take you to fully believe this? Jewish sages have a saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. This doesn't mean planning is useless. It means obsessive control is illusion. You don't control how manifestation will happen. You only control who you choose to be while it happens. And who you choose to be determines what you receive. There are people who manifest and then lose everything. Why? Because they didn't become the version that could sustain it. They won the lottery, but continued being who they always were. And who they always were wasn't compatible with wealth. So the universe, which always seeks balance, took it back, not as punishment, but as adjustment. That's why identity transformation is non-negotiable. You need to become the person who naturally lives in the reality you desire. If you want wealth, you need to think like rich, feel like rich, act like rich. Not ostentatiously, but internally. Rich isn't who has money, it's who has abundance mentality. You can have millions and still live in mental scarcity, or you can have little and live in mental abundance. Manifestation follows the mind, not the bank account. Write in the comments, I already am one who has. Because this phrase is a vibrational password. It affirms your identity, dissolves doubt, and anchors your new state. Say it out loud. Repeat it in thought. Write it here and feel. Manifestation is inevitable, but peace can be instantaneous. You just need to choose to live as one who already is. You've made it this far because something in you knows this is true. Your soul recognizes these words, not because they're new, but because they're ancient. They're what you always knew but forgot. This is your reminder. You're creator, not creature. Your source, not receiver. Your cause, not effect. And when you live from that truth, the whole world reorganizes itself to reflect it. Don't wait anymore. Don't postpone your joy for when it happens. Be joyful now. Don't save your gratitude for when you receive. Be grateful now. Don't wait for signs to believe. Believe now, because now is all that exists, and who you are now is who you'll be forever, unless you choose differently, and you can, right now.